This is a Guide Your Light network production, creating podcasts with purpose. Hello, I'm Maritza Barone. Welcome to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. Has there ever been a moment in your life where you heard, read, or were told something that you simply could not unhear? Something that made you stop in your tracks and helped you to see the world differently in some way, a better way. On this podcast, we create those life-changing moments for you through interviews with some of the world's most profound people around the globe. We explore groundbreaking ideas in health and well-being.
What we're really doing is getting to the root cause of your symptoms. And often we find that that is an emotional block that we have been carrying around in our body that's become almost crystallized and created a physical symptom.
Relationships.
And for women as well, when I talk about respect, it's called respecting yourself, which is don't overgive. Women will tend to put themselves one down, and then wake up at 40 and go, wait a second, I am woman, I deserve respect.
Personal and professional transformation.
This is true of any skill. You only develop it by doing it. And so, if you don't get out there and just start doing it and being a bit rough around the edges at the beginning, you can't work on your craft. And so it can't turn into something.
Spirituality.
Because I think when we know who we really are, we think we're our name and our body and our form and our hair and our clothes and our skin and but when we know who we really are as infinite beings, we're free.
And so much more. So settle in. This might just be a big day for you where you hear something that changes your life in the most transformative way. Thanks for being here again on the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. We are privileged to have you join us, and today is a very special episode. In fact, all of our episodes are special because we have the privilege to have exceptional human beings join us. Today on the show, I invite my brand new friend, Richard Thompson. He's a two-time Ultraman triathlon world champion, a seasoned lawyer heading his brand new law firm, Thompson Legal, the host of the Success Times Happiness podcast, and a doting father to his growing sons. He's someone who I have learned over time does not do things in halves. And it seems when he sets his mind to anything, he backs himself fully and puts in a 10 out of 10 effort. Actually, maybe an 11 out of 10. He's definitely going above and beyond. I suppose you need that quality when you're doing an endurance sport for over 20 hours straight. And it's really clear that he's done this in his sporting career, but he's also transferred this skill and integrated it into his business, his career, and his lifestyle. In this conversation today, we hear Richard's journey and how he prepares his mind for competition, plus why putting in a 10 out of 10 effort actually isn't very hard for him. We also hear about how we too can utilize our multifaceted skills across industries and how we can prepare and set big goals and then surrender to the outcome. We also learn Richard's methodology into achieving what success means for you personally. Some true golden nuggets in this for everyone. Rich is a heart-led man, I would say, with big goals and a grand impact he wants to bring to the world. So enjoy this conversation. Let me know your biggest takeaway on the Things You Can't Unhear Instagram page. And while I've got you, to support the show and get it out to as many people as possible, it would mean a lot if you could share a review on the Apple Podcasts app or give us a rating on the listening app you are listening to this on right now. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here again and again. And I look forward to hearing what you think of Richard's conversation on the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. Welcome, Richard Thompson, to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast.
Thanks, Maritza. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. We have had loads of chats over the last couple of weeks, last month, and you're a fascinating person. We've had really deep chats really quickly. So I'm so excited to bring you to the show and bring you to our listeners so they can get some of the Richard Thompson value that I've gotten over the past month and share it with everyone listening today. So I know you've had a colourful career. Today you've invited me to sit here in your brand new podcast studio, which is gorgeous, and you are housing this studio in your new legal firm here on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland.
Yep.
Been a massive life pivot recently.
Yep.
Tell us about what sparked the pivot from going from professional sports person to back to law. I know the word pivot's been a huge thing for many people in the last couple of years, but tell us what sparked it for you.
I think it's been an enjoyable month and a half getting to know you as well. And I find you incredibly fascinating too. But in terms of where we are now, it's a result of a lot of, life events getting to me to a place where I had to think about going back to law. I left law in 2016, thinking that I'd never go back. And I think in retrospect, it was the life in 2016 looks a lot different to when it does now. And I think the circumstances around my life in 2016 sort of put I'm a different person. So I thought if I go back into law last year and I really enjoy it, then there's a very good chance that I'd want to start my own. And we had the podcast already going well at that stage. So we thought, well, if we're going to do a fit out, we'll build a studio in the firm as well.
Oh, it's an epic studio. I'm moving in.
Yeah.
Now, you say you're a different person. That's a huge statement and something that I can resonate with myself as well. I feel like I'm a different person from 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. What makes you so different now?
You need to have enough self-awareness to see that you do develop and you do evolve and be really open to that. And but I think in terms of my life, let's say 2016, I was a lawyer and my eldest son was born. And it was a real pivotal moment in my life whereby I didn't want to, at that stage in my mid-20s, or late 20s rather, I didn't want to be a 80-hour, 90-hour lawyer in an office and miss that. And miss that opportunity to be with my son. So I started an online business for triathlon coaching. This is before COVID, many years before COVID, and where it was all online. Had athletes around the world. We brought coaches on, staff, and it was going well. And that was at that stage where I was like, I could probably leave law, and supplement, the income, and do that full time from home remotely. And that's what we did. And I had a wonderful business partner during that time for the business. It allowed me to be there for my son, and I just lost I don't know, I think at that time I didn't really understand why, but I just thought I didn't love being in an office working for somebody, and it wasn't a huge career progression in that firm, and I just got stale with it, I think. And so not knowing where life was going to lead, I sort of thought, all right, I'll do that. Yeah, which is a huge step. Obviously, I went to uni for 7 years and did accounting and law, and to say I'm going to be a triathlon coach, which requires no qualification really, was a big step. But I also knew that worst comes to worst, I could fall back.
Exactly, and it's a journey, isn't it?
Yeah. And then, I don't know where we're going to go, but from here. But I find Ultraman Triathlon, which is a sort of 3-day event, a niche sport, but something that physiologically and mentally is in my wheelhouse. It's an endurance triathlon that's over 3 days. The distances are immense compared to normal one-day triathlons. And I found that was quite serendipitous because it was an event here on the Sunshine Coast. They have it all around the world. World Championships each year is held in Hawaii. And we did it. It's a team sport, a support car, as in the support car has to be with you the whole day, all 3 days. And so 4 of my best mates jumped in the car as my support team for that first race we did in 2017. And not really knowing what we were doing, we raced it and broke the world record in 2017. And so, and not that it's not a highly professional sport, so it was a surprise to us that we broke the world record, but that sort of set the path because as an athlete, I became a big fish in a very small pond. I can't explain to you how niche the sport is, but by doing that, you market yourself. It's marketable because you are the best, even though there are hundreds of triathletes in the world that would be better than me at it, but no one really goes down that path because it's so extreme, the distances. So I guess with my marketing background as well through uni and just entrepreneurship 101, I thought we can market this hard. And so then we signed lots of contracts to do this full time. And the goal was the year after, just before COVID, we went to Hawaii for the World Championships and we won that, which was a great experience. And then COVID hit. But then at that stage, the cumulative time for the world record that we set was 21 hours and 21 minutes. Wow. Okay. And we beat the then record by, I think, about 15 minutes.
Wow.
And then the goal, we thought, well, what's marketable? And I knew that wasn't necessarily my best athletic effort. And I'm talking a lot about this, but the goal was to put together an opportunity similar to the breaking 2-hour marathon that Nike and Ineos have done to go break 20 hours. So that would take an hour and a half off the world record. And it was meant to be in 21, but that COVID hit, so it had to be delayed. Then it was meant to be 22, but I had some of my own personal issues that I couldn't race in 22. And then 23 came, and that was last year that we were destined to do it. It was an enjoyable. The whole journey was really enjoyable in the sense that it was much more commercial than we expected it to be.
I love how you brought the strategy into what you were doing. Not only did you have obviously a love for the sport, and you were super fit and had this skill, but you thought, well, I've got all of this business knowledge. How can we take this to the next level using that? And I love the integration of everything you know coming together. And I think that's where people really start to disrupt industries and you know, make an impact on a big level is when they bring all of their knowledge together. And obviously you're multi-talented. You've got an amazing podcast. You're a lawyer. You're a professional sports person. So why not bring it all together? Why not bring all of those skills, talents, creativity together?
Yeah, I think everyone's got that, right? Everyone through their own life experiences have so many skills and tools that they probably don't give themselves credit for, and they don't necessarily look at it and think, I could bring that to the table and bring all of these skills. I mean, we do that as parents, right? Like as a parent, you're counselor, you know, the policeman, you wear
the taxi
exactly
driver,
right,
exactly.
And so you sort of like without even knowing you put on all those hats. So what was interesting though in retrospect, in that moment of pivot now, which you talked at the top, was to understand what I actually really enjoyed the most in that whole experience of sport. That was the key bit that unlocked my understanding of myself to to give my internal green light to go down this path of opening a law firm and all of that, because it wasn't the sport that I loved. It was the business of it.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. And it's so great that you've got awareness around that too now. Let's go into the mindset that it takes to compete at this level, because I think that's quite fascinating. And again, you can transfer that into the business world, into relationships, into parenting, into life in general. But let's go into where you started mindset-wise to prepare yourself for the endurance that this sport has, and preparing for 21 hours of activity and being silent, I suppose, for most of that time, and goal setting and achieving what you want to achieve, not just doing it for fun. This is a serious work. Talk about how you prepared your mindset to succeed, to set those big goals.
It's a fine balance between being still in the moment and being satisfied in the moment, comparing to that and then as a direct paradox of not being satisfied with where you are right now. I suffer that dichotomy every day because you need to be able to be in the moment and have flow state, and that's, in terms of athletic performance, that's the dream, because you're then viewing, and I can recall moments of extreme flow state where I'm actually out of body and can see myself train whilst I'm training and be aware of that, like almost like lucidly. But I think it's also that understanding that you need to be able to push more. The expectation when you're trying to achieve what we were trying to, like, it's almost like blue ocean stuff. Like, you're just going, we want to redefine what is possible. So we need to we can't set this old idea of goal setting. I still struggle with it because this is going to go in so many different tangents, but I truly believe that you can achieve anything you want in the world, which is a really powerful statement. And I think a lot of people struggle with that statement because it puts them in a place of discomfort of what they're doing with their life. Because they go, well, I could be an astronaut. And you're like, yeah, you could if you really wanted to. And the answer is most people don't want to be an astronaut. But the people that have wanted to be an astronaut are astronauts, right? So the problem is with that statement is that people push up against that because they haven't achieved what they want to have achieved, or they're not achieving what they want to achieve right now. And so it's just a matter of how you achieve it rather than if you will achieve it. So that goes back to then your daily habits. And I think also you look at who you admire or who you look up to, or you go, okay, well, I want to achieve this. And everything that's been achieved in the world has been achieved by a human. So that's proof in itself that it's possible.
Why not you?
Exactly right. And so then you set a goal, and I think the goal itself, though, limits you. So, and how you view goal setting generally is probably a nature-nurture sort of position whereby you're probably influenced by your upbringing as to how much you can achieve or how much you think you can achieve in life, but also from your own experiences. So, and for me, it's always been what's driven me with coaching, what's driven me as an athlete. It's like, what's your potential? Yeah. Like that's the crux. It's not, I mean, we, as a marketing tool, we said sub 20, right? We want to break 20 hours because it was a beautiful marketing piece, but forever it's been, what is our actual potential? And you look at a law firm, let's say, or any business, and you say, well, we want to, most businesses, right? We sell 1,000 widgets a year. Next year, we want to sell 1,100, 10% more. And it's like, well, it's so subjective. The goal, that is an objective goal, but is it your potential? Is it the team's potential? And that's more of something you need to look to, and also look to yourself, right? And that's really challenging because we all fall short of our own potential because you don't know what it is, what you could actually do with yourself and with your life if you actually, A, believed in yourself, B, went down that path, C, understood exactly what you want to achieve in life. And then once you understand what you want to achieve, then it's a matter of how. And for me, that becomes, so you understand what you want, then you bring in a team around you. So you look at anyone who's achieved anything in life, from, the iPhone to the computer to penicillin to bloody anything. Nothing's been achieved by one person. There'll be a leader. There'll be someone attributed to that. I have this position of that the greater the goal, the greater the team is needed. And so it's just a matter of going, okay, how do I achieve this? And then how can I bring the most amazing team around me so that we can achieve this together?
I love that. So you've seen the end game. You see where that is. You see where you want that to be, and then you fill in the gaps.
You go backwards.
On the pathway.
Yeah.
On the pathway and go backwards.
Yeah. And then the piece about understanding that you really want it, the astronaut piece, let's say, or whatever it is you want to achieve in life, there'll be hurdles along the way that will test your resolve as to how much you want it. Now, if you really want that, they will just solidify your desire for it. A hurdle. You'll just go, okay, it's all right. That's
because you're crystal clear.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not.
I was reading because I'm in the podcasting world. I own a podcasting network, and I have clients in podcasting. I'm part of a podcasting forum. And today there was a post from someone saying, how do I keep going when I'm not motivated? How do I just keep putting out content even when I don't want to? And it's literally and you can apply this to anything, keep going even when it's hard. And that's what I'm hearing you say as well. And it sounds like with everything that you do, and I've seen it with this law firm and this studio and everything you've done so far, is that you put in a 10 out of 10 effort.
Yeah. But that's not hard for me because the groundwork necessary is to go, what is it that I want? And I was in a hole last year. And I've experienced a few holes in the last 5 years. But last year I sat in, not quicksand, but certainly in status quo for 3 months, not knowing where my life was going next. And I took my time. I wasn't rushing, and Michael Jordan's strength and conditioning coach, and he was also Kobe Bryant's strength and conditioning coach, made reference to this idea that if you get hit metaphorically and you get thrown you fall onto the canvas, don't immediately come up. Like, smell the canvas, smell the blood in your mouth. Just sit there and see how disgusting this feels, so that you know that you're not going to go back down there again. Because if you're too quick to respond, you're just reactionary. You're not going, yeah, this sucks. And that was me, right? And I was like, okay, this sucks. I know that this isn't ideal where I'm right now, but to do the 10 out of 10 every day of the week and not to, at no point in whatever I've done, and I guess probably the last time I struggled with it was when I left law. I was like, this isn't lighting me up. I'm not giving 10 out of 10. And that's my personality, right? I'm all in. And then but it's so easy to do that if you've done the work to know that that is exactly what you want to do in life. You do that. So the person who made that point about in the podcasting forum, it's not about motivation. Like, motivation will only get you a tenth of the way there, but you shouldn't need motivation to achieve what you want to achieve because you're that set on it. I bring it back to also like brushing your teeth. No one's motivated to brush their teeth, but it's a locked-in proposition that I don't want my teeth to get cavities, right? So you go, okay, I'm brushing my teeth twice a day. It's just it's a way of life. It's an act of breathing. You don't think about it. You don't need motivation for it. You just do it because you've locked in for the purpose of having good oral health. And it's the same thing with business. And the same with the podcast, right? I have no emotional connection to the outcome of it. And I'm more interested in understanding the consistency piece and the longevity of consistency. I've always the endurance of an act is really intriguing to me. At some point, it will get, 1 million downloads a month. I'm very sure of that. It is a question of when.
I can tell you why you don't care. Because you're doing everything at a 10 out of 10 level.
Yeah, sure.
And you can't actually improve on it. And so the result of that is going to be what you set out it to be. You are putting in full effort. So that's why you've released the fact that you don't care.
Yeah, and I don't. And if it gets to 1 million downloads, I don't care either. I don't have any emotional attachment to that either. It's just part and parcel of it. And I understand that something like that will take time, always takes time to grow. And then you go, okay, we celebrate the wins as along the way, but we just keep trying to get better, understand the really small feedback loops. So to go, okay, well, that worked, but this didn't, so let's move that way. But I have no emotional attachment to, to how the time it takes or what it takes, because it won't change. I'm not. And I guess this comes also down to Maritza, like this idea that Simon Sinek brought. I think he brought it from somewhere else as well. It's the idea of infinite and finite games. And so the finite, and I'm sorry if you've heard about this idea, but the finite, you can look it up, but the finite games, a finite game is known players, known rules, and an outcome of a winner or a loser. So rugby, cricket, AFL, baseball, whatever it is. And an infinite game is unknown players, unknown rules. The goal is to keep the game going. And what I've experienced is that in life and so triathlon, my sport that I was doing, finite game. There was a start time, a date that we were working towards, and there was a finish line. then the game's over. But what I've found is in life is that what really propels, what motivates you, what is so beautifully enriching is the infinite games, because the goal is to continue the game. You can't lose in podcasting, for example, if you don't quit.
And in anything.
And in anything. So the most amazing games to play are the infinite games. And so you can't win in marriage. The goal is to stay happily married. There's no winner. You can't win in business. The goal is to stay happily in business, right? And those pursuits will always outweigh the finite pursuits. And the problem is where I find let's say that person on the forum in the sense that they go, well, I'm not getting the reach or I'm not getting the numbers that I want. They're playing a finite game they're a finite player in an infinite game. Like, you just keep going. You don't have any other option. And so then you don't need motivation. You just do. By looking at this business, by looking at the podcast, by looking at my relationship with my partner, you can't win parenting. My relationship with my children is just, I'm just so engaged and so enthused about playing the infinite game with those hats on. That fuels me.
Taking a quick minute to interrupt this conversation to let you know about something exciting I am growing. As you might know, I'm incredibly passionate about helping people to find and share their voice, especially if their voice is one that aims to create positive change in others. And I've launched a podcast network with purpose. It's called the Guide Your Light Network, that features podcasts and voices that inspire, educate, and transform listeners. And we have a library of podcasts that are part of our network that truly embody that mission, and we're looking for more. If this has sparked interest in you and you are ready to start exploring speaking and using your voice in this way, I'd love for you to check it out. Also, if you have something important to say and you don't know where to start to bring that to life, we can also help you to craft your authentic message through our Guide Your Light online sessions to help you get super clear on your intention, messaging, and structure needed to launch a podcast of your own that is authentically you. Just head over to guideyourlightnetwork.com. When you used to coach, what is some advice that you'd give around sports people when they wanted to go the extra mile? So to come from being just involved in a sport to actually winning, to do that 5% extra work, preparation. What is some words of wisdom that you'd share with them to reach a higher level of success?
Yeah, and as a coach, I would attribute myself to maybe 5% of the overall outcome of their success. But it was really a really enjoyable experience to be part of that journey with them. I was able to be fortunate to be part of their journeys of a lot of weekend warriors, and they became age group champions, masters champions, world champions.
Humble of you to say
No,
you're
but
only 5%.
I truly though, because they've got to do it, and it's their life that they've got to lead. But the position that I'd always go back to them at the start and throughout is what is your potential? And you don't think it's a fair position of unlocking the ability for a person to see what their potential is. And sometimes they need someone to believe in that, right? To go, I think your potential is bigger, more than you think. But there's the position of I said it to my team the other week here at the firm, can we be 1% better tomorrow than we were today than we were yesterday? 1%. That's all I'm asking.
And how can we be 1%?
There's 1,000 things, right? 1,000 ways that we can be better than 1% than yesterday. If you do that every day, the power of compounding means you're 37 times better by the end of the year. That's 37 times better, not just 37%. You're 37 times better. And so that's an enormous leg up. But also to look at life as a whole, not just how can you be a better athlete? How can you be a better swimmer, cyclist, or runner? There's obviously mechanical things that you can do, but the big mover is to look at life as a whole, and you go, okay, and my position was a better human was a better athlete. So how can we make your life better as a human? And because if your life is great, you're going to get to training a lot better. You're going to perform a lot better when you're in a difficult session and there's 10 reps of 5 minutes apiece and you're in rep 7 and you feel like dying. If your life is good, if you've got support around you and you've got an amazing team, then you're going to be able to handle that challenge. Whereas if, for an athlete who's struggling at work and works overbearing, he hasn't seen the kids for four days, and his spouse is hating the fact that he's training so much, he's not going to be able to handle the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th effort of that session. So it's looking at it holistically and going, okay, and that comes back to sleep. That comes back to, getting your house in order generally. It's about communicating. It's about bringing the team in. It's all those little things. And so then you unlock that, and you don't understand how easy. That's why I said it's 5%, because you sort that shit out with an athlete and get their life in order. And not that I played too much of a heavy role in that. I just sort of said getting them to open their eyes to how important that is about getting everything else sorted, and then training will happen. And there's also like you can go, yeah, you can train like your life depends on it for 12 weeks, and then your life's going to blow up. And it's that. So an athlete will say, well, I want to break this time for a race, or I want to win this race. And there's conditions on that. You want to have a good relationship with your kids. You want to keep your job. You don't want to get fired. You want to stay married. Like, there are a few conditions that we need to play with. But once we sort that out, then it's a different lens that looking at it. And then they can go, okay, let's sort everything else out, and then we can focus on the training bit. But
it builds a healthy foundation for you to go out and then smash the
exactly.
goals that you've set for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, history would suggest that happens. Really
it does. So your podcast is called Success Times Happiness. You're so passionate about bringing those two things together, and pretty much what you described just then within your coaching is teaching your clients how to be happy and successful at the same time, because we know from seeing other people and even within ourselves, success does not always mean happiness. Why did you choose that title for this podcast, and tell me what that whole idea means to you?
Probably a lack of other options for a podcast title, but no, there were two very strong concepts that I always play with, and it sort of progressed. We don't touch on them too heavily now, even though sometimes we do on the episodes, but it's still the theme, right? To speak to people and to see how they view those concepts and how they intersect, because I find that extremely fascinating. And like what is someone's definition of success or definition of happiness?
Go on then. Tell us.
I'm not one to. I don't want to cast the authority.
But this is coming from your point of view.
My point of view.
And I know you ask all your guests this question too, so I'm fascinated to know whether you've shared.
My point of view is that happiness is an emotion that should be celebrated, but all emotions should be celebrated. And that's really challenging in dark times. But, we have one life to live, and we're very fortunate. And I've as a kid, since as a child, I understand how incredibly fortunate we are to have this life. Right? The chances, like if you look it up, Google it, the chances of actually being born are infinitely remote.
And the chances of being born in a beautiful country like this,
right,
in the safety, in the arms of our parents,
in this day of age,
exactly.
Yeah,
the chances of that are very low as well.
Yeah, but it's like 30, like it's 1 to the power of like 30, the chances of actually being born. Full stop. And then, as you said, with the luxury of being in Australia and the luxury of all of those things, and then therefore you have to embrace life for what it is, and life is tricky. Life is full of malevolence and the dark.
It's heaven and hell at the same time.
Yeah, but you can't have the light without the dark. And so then you've got to appreciate the dark as well as the light. And so I think happiness is great, and it's an emotion just like all the other emotions. Probably the goal, I think, more focused on purpose more than happiness. So if you have purpose, that's what you're looking for, and that purpose will bring the light and the dark, will bring the happiness and the sorrow. That all of that needs to be celebrated, But the dark times is just are moments, however long they are, of almost like data to help you digest and understand why it's dark at this moment, so that you can learn to minimize those as you progress.
And to understand that this too is impermanent.
Yeah, which is hard.
It is.
It's probably because the human psyche is just so biased to the negative. So you have a moment of happiness, like true happiness, and it's wonderful, but it's fleeting. It will go automatically because life will take it. Whereas if you're in a negative spot, you're in a dark spot, your conscience will say, we're here forever. This is life now. And it's really hard to get out of. And that's where people really struggle and sit in ruts. And I said last year, I sat in there for 3 months.
How did you get yourself out of it?
For context, we went for sub 20. It was a 3-year thing that we went for. I was physically ready, mentally ready, team was ready. All the sponsors were there. I'd done reconnaissance and training. This is over 3 days. I'd done day 1, day 2, and day 3 at times that need to break 20 hours. So I'm like, we just got to get this done. So confident. And I got like a lung infection at the end of day 1. So I had to pull out. Couldn't even finish it.
Wow.
We had won a second world championship the year before in Hawaii, and then the race was in Australia, and couldn't finish. So I'd prepared everything for 3 years.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah. And then so I'm late 30s at home, post race, not knowing what to do. Do I go back again? All my contracts with sponsors were done. I'd have to try to renegotiate whether or not they would be. I felt guilty. Even though we got the press and the marketing really spot on, but they just didn't get that. And we got a world championship the year before with all the sponsors, but they didn't get what they signed up for. It was all a risk for them as well as for me, but there was no cherry on top that we were able to break 20 hours. So the chances of them coming back on, I thought, were remote because of the risk again for not doing it. And on top of that, the idea was, could I break 20 hours? Because it hadn't been done. And people had said that it wasn't possible physically. And then an incredible athlete who I raced against on that first day before I had to pull out, he was from New Zealand, and he did it. He won and broke 20 hours. So the idea of can it be done was already answered. And I don't know. I had 3 boys at that stage, under 10, and I was like, what am I doing? So I sat there for 3 months not knowing, and I was still coaching a little bit, but that wasn't lighting me up anymore. And
were you a pleasure to be around this time?
Oh God, no. my partner Michelle might be able to answer that, but no. I don't think I was horrible to be around, but I was certainly directionless, and I didn't know. And then my auntie called me up, and I was given a lot of support from my inner circle. Like a lot of support, but not any sort of real tough love. And as I said to you, I was sort of sitting on the canvas, tasting the blood a little bit.
Was it your aunt that gave you?
A bit of that tough love. And
What did she say?
She sort of said, not in a bad way, not in a mean way either, but just said, you need to pay it forward. Like you've got an opportunity now to pay it forward for your kids, and to create. You've got 20, 30 years. Because there's such a short runway after professional sport. And there probably would have been 2 years left if I was to really work at it before my age would have dropped my performance. So I could have come back and done it. And part of me was like, well, that was the introspection bit. It's like I just didn't know whether or not I wanted to show myself that I could break 20 hours or whether I actually just enjoyed the whole business side of it. Like I just loved it. Loved that whole bringing sponsors in, understanding how the sponsors could work, the collaborative approach, the leveraging of different audiences and all of that. And then the idea of regret, like would I regret when I'm 50, would I regret not going back and doing it the year after just to show that I can? And that still sits a little bit with me. I thought, all right, well, I've got the law degree. I never thought I'd go back, but I'll go back. In the real hope that there would be that drive and motivation to give 10 out of 10 like I do with the sport or like I've done with anything. So it was the tough love that the whole idea of paying it forward got me out of that. But it took 12 weeks.
Pretty valuable advice from your aunt to say, now pay it forward, because that instantly, I suppose, might give you a new sense of purpose. You've got a new direction. You know what your next step will be, and it's bigger than you.
Yeah, and my position with my kids has always been, I want them to know that they can achieve anything in the world that they want to, and there is that fine balance between just being there all the time and telling them that they can, but not you not doing it, versus maybe straining that relationship and going off and doing your own thing at the expense of that relationship and showing them that you're able to do it. So they're the two sort of goalposts, and it's trying to find something in the middle where you can have a really strong relationship with your kids and show them that you are doing the thing that you want to do, because then they'll go, oh, I can also do that. Like my kids, as children, you want them to believe that they can achieve anything they want.
How old are your kids now? 3 boys.
3 boys, 10, 6, and 4.
Wow.
But the position of, that you can achieve anything you want is I think it's such a beautiful mentality for the kids. And that getting out of that rut was like, okay, I not only need to show them now, because I felt, it was challenging. It was really challenging moment of life.
And I think as a parent, as children get older, it is definitely the parent needs to lead by example rather than tell them. And I know I'm seeing that with my kids. They just don't want to hear advice. They just want to take what they can from what you're doing, the best of you, hopefully, and not the worst of you.
Yeah.
So, hopefully we do put that forward. But I want to know, Richard Thompson, from all the work that you're doing, from the way that you parent, from the way that you do business, what do you want to be remembered for?
What do I want to be remembered for? Someone who I think gave it his all, and for the better of the people around him as well.
Oh, see, you didn't need preparation. That was amazing.
You're right.
Have you got mentors in your life? Have you got people you've looked up to that have really helped you in some way to see life differently, to approach life in this way?
I do now. I never did it in my 20s, and I think if anyone listening of any age should definitely be getting the people who have just experienced what they're experiencing, like someone 5-10 years ahead. That would be a huge piece. Whether it's probably more so in life than, because business, sport, anything we do, it all it's similar to my discussions with athletes. It all is the foundations of life is underpins all of it. And so if you can really bed down that foundational work for yourself, the rest will follow. And that's the whole idea of understanding who you are, your shadow, your strengths and weaknesses, and having a relationship with somebody outside of your immediate family and friends.
Where do you get your go-getter personality from? Is that just something that you inherited or created yourself, or did you have an example growing up?
No, I didn't have an example growing up. I mean, my mum's extremely, she's the most influential person in my life, and someone who has had to grind her whole life, and now she's reaped the rewards of that now. She's been the epitome of work ethic, and that's been wonderful to have as an example. In terms of my Blue Oceans view, a mindset, I don't know. Looking back, I think I always thought that life was really special, having this opportunity, and you shouldn't waste it and shouldn't just be a sheep. And then I think when I was 23, I was doing the triathlon, but not only one-day triathlon, and whilst at uni doing law, and I did Ironman, one-day triathlon, went to the World Championships. Didn't think I thought I'd go well, but not super well, and I won the Junior World Championships in 2008. And it was that moment, I think it was a really pivotal moment where I was like, oh shit, you just need to work hard, not limit yourself. So I didn't put any pressure on winning. I was just like, I'm just going to do my best. And I won. And that was a key moment of like, oh, right, this can be that mentality of the purpose, locking into a purpose because you truly believe and that's where you're headed, giving it 10 out of 10, getting the team around you and going after it will ultimately lead to success or lead to achievement. And that was a key moment. I was like, all right, this can be then moved anywhere. That toolkit can be moved anywhere. Now, in saying that as well, I think what's interesting is, and I'm sure you can attest to this, that when you don't achieve something that you thought you would, similar to me last year, Steve Jobs talks about you can only connect the dots looking backwards. Like I've never been more fulfilled and more satisfied with my life, and as crazy as it is right now, which is crazy, I've never been more fulfilled, and I would argue more purpose. I'm not going to say happy.
You're allowed to be
No,
happy.
I certainly am, right? I certainly am. It is beautiful right now, and it has been ever since I think we decided to start this venture. Now, I've never been this fulfilled, even as an athlete, even when getting good contracts with sponsors or anything. Like this is like, and I don't know how long it'll last, but this is the top echelon for me.
You're in the flow state.
For almost 39 years, this is it so far. And
exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. And I would not be here, really clear. I would not be right here if I didn't get sick on that race last year. If that didn't result in a lot of different events in the past that have caused it to be here, I wouldn't do it.
Can't have the light without the darkness.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard at the moment, in the moment of darkness, to go, this will work out perfectly, because you're in the shit. But to go, looking back, that has to have happened. So almost like I've gone through that experience for 3 years doing that sport, which has been amazing and a really good experience. And yes, we didn't achieve what we ended up achieving, which is my theory, right? My theory is you have the purpose and the drive, you have a team, it will occur. Like, call that manifestation, call that whatever you want, but that is so clear for me. But then it didn't. But then it's resulted in this. So then I think, well, actually, and you can sort of shuffle the deck in the way that you'd like it, but you go, actually, the ultimate goal was maybe here, right now. And the 4 years of sport, of professional sport, has been great. Didn't end up the way we thought it would, but it's resulted in something even better. And that's tremendous.
It's absolutely tremendous. I want to know if there are any sports people that inspired you as you were starting your professional sport career. Who did you look up to the most as a sports person? Or who do you like to watch as a sports person and see their form?
I like anyone who's it's all marginal gain. It's all like who are obsessed.
Like Roger Federer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roger Federer. Yeah, anyone. Michael Jordan, when I was a kid, I enjoy all sports. You look at any sport, right? Even, I don't know, tennis is a great example. There are top 500 in the world. But then you go, there's only one or two who are exceptionally better than the rest. And they're the pinups of and I've always loved legacies of success, to go, wow, that's incredible. Like Tiger Woods, just anomalies within their own sport. I've always really loved.
What about business leaders? Who excites you in the business world?
Well, I feel like I'm such an amateur. So everyone. Yeah, I'm only new to that side of looking into, really strong leaders. But I mean, growing up, Tim Ferriss, I'm a sucker, obviously sucker for podcasts. So anyone who's I've grown up in that podcast world of, so Tim Ferriss when he first started as well. Yeah. Alex Hormozy now, Ryan Holiday on A Stoic View. I mean, Richard Branson. There's a lot of generic or cliche people.
Yeah.
And
what books are by your bedside table? Are you fiction or non-fiction?
Oh God, no, all non-fiction. I'm like, and even Cody was like, "Do you listen to any podcast to junk?"
Cody, your producer.
Yeah. Like, do you listen to anything that's just junk? And I'm like, nah.
How do you switch off then?
I
don't.
No. I mean, I am a sucker for the NBA, so I probably watch every night a 10-minute recap of the games played during the day or night over there. That's it.
Do you have any other well-being practices that help you to switch off?
You can ask Michelle. I have my latency is so low, so my ability to go to sleep is very high, is really strong. Well, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't think it's great, but I could fall asleep within 2 or 3 minutes of lying down.
Does that mean you've got a clear mind, do you think?
Yeah, I'm just tired. No, there is so much evidence about getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I don't always play by that rule, but so important. I've been a vegetarian for 15 years. It was from a drunken bet that turned into a lifestyle.
Oh, and you have stuck to it for that long?
Yeah.
Fascinating. Are you still friends with the person who you placed the bet with?
No, I'm not.
I think you can stay meet if you wanted to again now.
No. It was a 6-month bet, and I just realised that I felt a lot better without it.
Yeah.
So never gonna look back. If I could, I'd be getting an ice bath and a sauna in my house. That's the goal. I love that work. I try to do, or I do breath work. Call that meditation, but breath work. I try to do that every morning and set intentions for the day. I think that's really important. I'm a sucker for a to-do list, and I don't really have a methodology to that. It's just more about getting it out of my head and on a piece of paper as to what I need to get done. I do like saying, okay, and given the chaos that life is, there's 1,000 of things that needs to get done. And I do like going, okay, if I got writing it all down, that exercise, it's cathartic. And to go, if I did every single one of these, then I'd have nothing to do. That's the goal. Not the goal, but it's writing every single, whether it's cleaning the leaves out of the gutters, whether it's, getting that brief out to a barrister for work, whether that's writing a new employment agreement for a staff member or whatever it is, picking up the grocery, like, or whatever that needs to happen. It's like, all right, I probably do it once every week to go, okay, if I did every single thing on this list, I'm done. I'll be sitting back doing nothing.
And I like how you put an action word at the start of all of those things. Create a brief, pick up washing, collect the kids.
Yeah.
I heard once from Melissa Ambrosini actually on this podcast where, she was she'd written a big book called Time Magic, and creating a doing word at the start of your to-do list is the way to look at it and not feel overwhelmed, and you know clearly exactly what you want to do. So it sounds like you're doing that subconsciously as well, or maybe consciously.
No. So certainly subconsciously. And on that point, that I just sort of thought, like, when you are goal setting, as I said, if you do it too strictly, you're gonna put a ceiling on your own potential. But you don't want it to be too wishy-washy and going, I'm going to try to get to the gym. You know what I mean? I want to get fit, as that sort of cliche or blasé sort of goal. But you set the goal, or I like to call it as a target. See, that's the target. I want to get, I don't know, whatever the goal is. I want to get under whatever kilo, or I want to do this for a time on a run or whatever, work or whatever. That's the target. The goal is actually creating an environment to allow you to achieve it. So the goal that's the focus. The focus needs to be, how can I create? And that's similar to what you just said about Melissa's position on time, on the doing word. It's like, how can I do the work to achieve the target? That's the goal, to set your life in a position that it allows you to do the work, to create the consistency, to get the goal.
Huge takeaway is to create the environment that it takes for you to succeed and be happy.
Yeah. And that's like with the pod, speaking to Cody, who's the producer, we worked backwards on how will we fail, which is a cool exercise to do.
So you're flipping goal setting to fail setting.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
How will we be happy to fail here? And to go, okay, how can we fail for this to stop? Because we accept that if we don't stop, we continue and we win. Let's call it that. And then you go, okay, what's going to stop? What's going to make us stop this process? And then you go, okay, we could get tired of the editing. We don't have any guests that say they want to come on, and we had a list. And you go, okay, how much of that is in our control? And all of it's in our control. Then that becomes open. So when those events occur, you're not surprised, and you already have an action plan as to how you deal with it. Yeah, and that, so far, we're only 50 episodes in, but it's fine. It's what it is. In fact, we've created it easier, because the first half of the first 25 episodes, or even 30 episodes last year, we were doing it out of office hours, because I was working for somebody else, and as a lawyer, we were recording at night, all in studio still, at home, in the room downstairs that we've created, that Code's put in sort of makeshift studio, and on the weekends. Like, it was hard. It was really hard. And we sort of thought, we have to get to 21 episodes. And we didn't want to do it virtually because it would have been too easy. We had to do it in-house. And we're like, most podcasts stop at 21 or
7.
Yeah. Right? But we thought we get to 21, we've gone over a lot of those hurdles. And so now we've made it easier. We made our life easier by putting it into the law firm, and we can record during the hours. And now I'm the boss. I don't have to
Boss man.
I don't have to hate myself. Well, I do. Yeah, don't scold myself for spending an hour and a half in here a day or a few days a week.
What are 6 things that are important to you to make you happy?
Purpose as one in whatever I do. My children, my partner Michelle. That's 3. Movement. I didn't say that as well for daily. Movement's huge.
Yeah. And that's a given, I suppose, with you.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Which also was challenging. I'll digress back to the 3 months, because you speak to any psychologist or mental health professional and they're like, you need to move. And like, I did that for my job that I hated or that I wasn't enthused by. So it's really challenging to then be told you need to move. And it's like, I know, like, but I don't. Yeah,
I don't need to move at that level.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, so we're at Purpose, kids, Michelle, movement. I mean, outside of Michelle and the kids, my general family and friends. Connection. And then finally, I'd say this place.
Oh,
work.
How nice. All right, so my final question is, what's something in your life that you once heard, and it could be good, could be bad, it could be inspiring, but you couldn't unhear it, and it forced you to change the way that you saw the world?
I'm going to give you something that I heard in the last 6 months, and that's from Alex Hormozy, who, if you're in entrepreneurial land, you either follow him or you should follow him. And it's very simple. And he said, the goal is the grind. And I was like, yeah, that hits. Because there's, in that infinite game, that's all that is. You know, and not the grind in a negative connotation, but just the day in and day out. Whether that's business, a relationship, your kids. Like, there's no point in living to get to the holiday for the kids. Like, you got an overseas trip. Just got to get through that. You know, just got to get through the next couple of months and then we're going to be in Bali. It's like, no. It's the grind. That's the goal. Like, it's the day to day. That's the beauty. And that's the same with business. That's the same with relationships. That's the same with anything that you play on an infinite game, is that, and like the pod, right? And it's to appreciate that it is positive and negative, the grind, and to appreciate that is the fact. And so you go, and he has this idea as well. It's like, whenever there's a problem, you go, good, that's good. How are we going? Like, let's solve that, or let's move that. But it's the initial response is good. Like, the kids are hard at the moment. Let's say, good. How are we going to solve it? Not that's bad. It's that's positive because the goal is the grind.
That's going on a post-it note on my fridge. Yeah, if you could see my thoughts right now, that hit me, and I think it's a powerful one. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing everything you have today.
Sorry,
your journey.
I talked a lot.
It's the idea. This is your episode. And
not usually the guest anymore.
We can't wait to see what's next for you. You're living in your flow state and it's only the beginning. So congratulations.
Thanks, Maritza. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for listening to the show. What did you think? And what did you feel? Let us know by leaving me a message on the Things You Can't Unhear Instagram community page. And if you can, give us some ratings love on your favourite listening platform.